They say betrayal doesn't come with a warning. That I used to believe that, until I found her phone buzzing on the nightstand, one forgotten message lighting up the screen like a loaded gun pointed straight at my heart. That it was supposed to be a quiet Saturday night, that I had just come back from a long week at the office, the kind that leaves you drained but grateful for the simple things, a familiar couch, a cold beer, the smell of your wife's favorite candle burning in the living room. That I remember kicking off my shoes, hearing the soft hum of the dishwasher running in the kitchen, feeling safe. She was upstairs, or so I thought, folding laundry or maybe scrolling through social media, just normal, just another quiet night between two people who had stopped needing words to fill the spaces, until I saw her phone. That it buzzed once, then again. That I wouldn't have even noticed if it weren't for the way it kept lighting up, screen flashing against the dark wood of the nightstand. Curiosity at first, then an odd twinge of instinct, that low, primal alarm no amount of rationalizing can silence. The name on the screen wasn't familiar. Can't wait to see you again. Last night was unbelievable. The air in the room seemed to thicken, like the house itself was holding its breath. For a second, I just stared at it, my mind struggling to make sense of something so wildly out of place that I heard my own heartbeat louder than the buzz of the phone. Rational thoughts flickered. Maybe it was a joke, a wrong number, a friend being stupid. But deep down, something old and instinctual had already snapped awake inside me. That I didn't touch the phone. That I couldn't. Instead, I stood there, frozen, trying to force my brain to find some explanation that didn't involve the one word I wasn't ready to say aloud. Cheating them. My hands trembled slightly as I moved away, pretending I hadn't seen anything, though the image was burned into my mind with cruel clarity. Downstairs, she greeted me with that same easy smile she always wore, the one I used to believe was reserved only for me. "Hey babe," she said, setting her wine glass down. "Want to order some takeout? I'm starving." I studied her face in that moment, every blink, every curve of her mouth, searching for cracks. All I saw was someone who could lie without flinching. Something inside me splintered. A hairline fracture running right through the foundation of everything we'd built together. Inner monologue. I should have asked her then. That I should have demanded the truth. But there's a strange thing about that first moment of suspicion. You don't want to believe it. You fight against it, you bargain with yourself, because once you say it out loud, once you cross that threshold, there's no turning back. Instead, I nodded, smiled, played my part. That I was an actor in my own home, delivering lines from a script I hadn't realized we were rewriting. That we ordered Chinese food. That we watched a mindless movie. That we went to bed, and I lay awake beside her, staring at the ceiling, feeling like the ground beneath my life had started to shift, slow at first, almost imperceptible, but steady, relentless. She curled into me in her sleep, murmuring my name. Like nothing had changed, but something had. That I could feel it in my bones. Sunday passed in a blur. That we made coffee. That we cleaned the garage. That we laughed about some dumb video on her phone. That I smiled. That I nodded. That I kissed her forehead when she leaned in, the way a man might kiss a woman who had already disappeared from his life but didn't know it yet. Inside though, a storm was gathering, quiet, but unstoppable. That message. That smirk on her face when she texted someone back while hiding her screen with a flick of her wrist, that little flash of guilt she buried so fast you almost had to doubt you even saw it. Almost. Inner monologue. I wasn't crazy. That I told myself that again and again, each time the panic rose like bile in my throat. But still, when she went to the grocery store, I found myself unlocking her laptop. That my hands shook a little, not from fear of getting caught, from the sheer nausea of what I might find. Her passwords were the same. Maybe a part of her still thought I was too trusting, too naive. She had underestimated me. She had forgotten that the man she was lying to had once built firewalls for a living. Her inbox was clean, too clean, not a single personal message in weeks, only receipts, promotions, bills. The phone was trickier, locked with a fingerprint, hers, not mine. That's when the idea hit me, something I never thought I'd even consider before that night. Spyware. That I sat there, staring at the screen, feeling like I was standing on the edge of some deep, dark canyon. That if I crossed this line, there would be no going back. And no more. Maybe I'm imagining things. I would know. That I would have to know. The decision. That night, after she fell asleep, I crept downstairs to the office, installed the tracking app on her laptop first, hidden so deep she'd never notice. Next step, setting up a dummy account, syncing it to her GPS, her texts, even her camera if needed. It was surprisingly easy, too easy. Somewhere along the way, I realized my hands were steady now, calm, like a man cleaning a rifle before a battle he didn't ask for. but damn well intended to survive. By Monday afternoon, I had her movements mapped, everywhere she went, everyone she texted. It started small. A Starbucks she visited twice in a day. A boutique store receipt that didn't match anything in her closet. A Lyft ride late at night, not logged in our shared expenses. A place I didn't recognize. I told myself maybe she was just stressed, maybe she was shopping, meeting friends, but something deeper, colder, realer whispered, "You already know that. You're just waiting for the evidence to punch you in the throat," building tension. By Tuesday, my stomach hurt constantly. I jumped every time my phone buzzed with an update from the tracking app. I watched her come home smiling, laughing, the same woman who once pressed her forehead to mine and swore we were unbreakable. Now I saw the truth in every shrug, every absent-minded glance, every fake excuse about staying late at work. There were two people living in this house now, one who thought she was fooling the other, and one who knew the game was already over, just waiting for the clock to run out. Closing of Part 2. Late Wednesday night, I watched her location ping again, not her office, not the GYM.AN address on the other side of town. Unfamiliar, tucked behind a strip of restaurants and motels. I copied the address, saved it in my notes. My heart wasn't pounding anymore. It was slow, heavy, like a war drum. Tomorrow night, she said she had a late meeting. Tomorrow night, I would follow her, and tomorrow night, the last piece of the illusion would shatter for good. The next evening, the world looked normal from the outside, the same cars parked along the street, the same kids riding bikes past cracked sidewalks, the same sun slipping lazily behind the rooftops, but inside me, something had changed. She kissed me on the cheek before she left, careful not to smear her lipstick. "I'm going to be late," she said, tossing her bag over her shoulder. "Don't wait up, okay?" I watched her walk away without a flicker of hesitation. I didn't answer, just nodded once, stiffly, and let her leave without looking back. I gave her a 15-minute head start before I grabbed my keys. No music on the drive. No thoughts either, just that cold, clean feeling you get before a storm hits, a kind of certainty you can't explain but know in your bones. I followed her signal on my phone, the GPS tracker pinging every few seconds, every green light, every turn she made. I stayed a few cars behind, blending into the flow of traffic. I had imagined this moment for days now, but nothing could have prepared me for the sharpness of it, the kind of dread that sits low in your gut, refusing to let you breathe properly. The closer I got, the heavier the air became, like even the night itself was warning me to turn back. I didn't. She pulled into a strip mall on the far side of town, a rundown place with flickering neon signs and cracked pavement. I slowed down, killing my headlights, parking a few lots over where I could still see everything but wouldn't be seen myself. At first, there was nothing, just her car, parked near a side entrance to one of the smaller buildings, someplace without a sign. No reason she should ever be here. She stayed in her car for a few minutes, fiddling with her phone, fixing her makeup in the mirror. Then another car pulled up. A black Ford, newer model. Windows tinted so dark you couldn't see inside. My hands curled around the steering wheel so hard the leather creaked. The man who got out was younger, maybe late 30s, casual jacket, confident walk, the kind of guy who thinks the world owes him something. He didn't hesitate, walked straight to her window, leaned in, smiled. She laughed, that soft flirty laugh she used to save for me. The sound of it sliced through the night and right into my chest. I sat there, every muscle in my body straining against the urge to ACT.TO run across the LOT.TO, tear the whole scene apart with my bare hands. Instead, I watched as she opened the door and stepped out, brushing imaginary dust from her clothes like she was preparing for something important. He touched her waist. She didn't flinch. They disappeared inside the building without looking back. No guilt, no hesitation, just two people who had done this before. I leaned back against the seat, staring up at the cracked roof of my car, feeling the weight of it all pressing down. It was real. It was happening. It had been happening for God knows how long. The trust one had built with her over years of quiet nights, whispered promises, and shared dreams had been traded away like something cheap, disposable. A different kind of anger lit inside me then, not the hot, reckless fury I thought I'd feel. No, this was colder, deeper. A quiet decision made somewhere far beneath the surface. This wasn't going to end with screaming matches or begging or second chances. This was going to end on my terms. I turned the key in the ignition, the engine rumbling awake beneath me, steady and sure that I didn't need to see any more tonight. Tomorrow would be a new kind of day, the first day of the end, and for once, it would be me pulling the strings. The next morning felt different, colder, sharper, like the world had shed its skin overnight and left nothing but hard edges behind. I didn't go into work. I didn't answer emails. I spent the morning making a plan, the kind of plan that didn't involve screaming or throwing punches, but one that would make sure they both remembered this day for the rest of their lives. When she left for another meeting that evening, I was ready that I waited until her car pulled out of the driveway, then followed. No hesitation this time. The address was burned into my memory. So was the image of her laughing at him, touching him like she used to touch me. That I parked a block away this time, walked the last stretch on foot. The place was quiet, tucked between a nail salon and an abandoned video store. The windows were tinted black. No lights visible from outside. But I didn't need proof anymore. That I already had everything I needed. That I pushed the door open without knocking. Inside, the place smelled of cheap perfume and bad decisions. Dim lights. That a couch against the wall. That a coffee table littered with empty drink cans and half-eaten takeout, and them. She was sitting on the couch, legs crossed, laughing at something he said. That he was too close, his hand resting on the back of her neck like he owned her. For a second neither of them noticed me. That I could have turned around, could have spared myself what came next, but I didn't. When she finally saw me, her face drained of color so fast it was almost impressive. She scrambled to her feet, stammering my name like a prayer she knew wouldn't be answered. That he stood up too, casual at first, that smug smile on his face like this was some minor inconvenience. That I stepped further into the room, closing the door behind me with a soft, deliberate click. Nobody said anything at first, just three people standing in the stale air, surrounded by the ruins of a life I once thought was indestructible. "You want to tell me what this is?" I asked, my voice low, steady. She opened her mouth, probably to lie, like she always did, but I held up a hand. "Don't. That I've heard enough lies already." He chuckled, actually chuckled, like this was funny to him. "Man," he said, shaking his head, "you really don't get it, do you? She's been over you for a long time." It took everything I had not to put my fist through his face, but I didn't come here for violence. That I came for the truth, and it was bleeding out of their eyes, their posture, their cowardice. That I looked at her then, really looked. She wasn't the woman I married, not anymore, maybe not for a long time. "You had a choice," I said, my voice rough, "and you made it." She tried to move toward me, hand outstretched. "No, please, you don't understand. It just happened. That I didn't mean for, you didn't mean for it to happen 10 times. I cut her off. "Because that's how many times you met him behind my back." Her mouth snapped shut. She hadn't thought I knew the details. The silence stretched between us, heavy and final. "You weren't just unfaithful," I said. "You made a fool out of me. You lied every single day and looked me in the eye like I was nothing." She shook her head, tears welling up now, but I didn't care, not anymore. That he stepped forward, puffing out his chest like he was about to defend her, like he was entitled to something. "You should just walk away, man," he said, smirking again. "You lost." I stared at him, slow, cold, calculated. "No," I said quietly. "You lost." Before either of them could react, I tossed a manila envelope onto the coffee table, printed photos, screenshots, dates, times, locations, proof so solid no lawyer on earth could dispute it. "Consider this the end of everything you thought you were getting away with," I said. That I didn't need to yell, that I didn't need to break anything. The look on her face, that perfect mix of horror and realization, was enough. Without another word, I turned and walked out, leaving the door swinging in the stale air behind me. That it was over, not the pain, not yet, but the pretending, the hoping, the waiting. That part of my life had finally died, and I was still standing. I didn't go home right away. Instead, I drove, aimless at first, just letting the road unfold in front of me while the rest of my world lay in ruins behind me. The city lights blurred through the windshield. The hum of the engine was the only thing that kept me tethered to the moment. That I thought I had seen the worst of it, the lies, the betrayal, the coldness. But life has a cruel way of saving its sharpest knives for when you're already bleeding. The next day, after a night spent staring at my ceiling in the dead silence of an empty house, I sat at the kitchen table with her laptop open in front of me. That I wasn't looking for anything anymore. That I wasn't hoping to find an apology tucked between the emails and the text logs. I just needed to understand the full scale of the wreckage. It didn't take long, hidden away in a private folder, disguised under a boring name, Taxes 2022, were documents I hadn't seen before, bank statements, loan applications, credit cards I didn't recognize. First, it didn't make sense that we always shared everything, every account, every decision, but there it was, plain as daylight. She had taken out credit in my name, tens of thousands in debt, gone, all while I was busting my back at work, thinking We were saving for a future we'd never actually have. It got worse, emails between her and him laughing about how easy it was, how, the idiot, that was me, wouldn't notice because I was too busy playing house husband to care. I sat there, staring at the screen, feeling the kind of fury that doesn't roar. It seeps in slow. It hardens your bones. It rewires you. This wasn't just betrayal of the heart, this was betrayal of my entire life. Everything I had built, everything I had trusted, gone. They had used me, my name, my credit, my loyalty, like a stepping stone. A free ride until they didn't need me anymore. And the worst part, she hadn't even looked guilty when I confronted her. No, she looked afraid not of losing me, but of losing the easy, safe life she had built on my back. I closed the laptop, the plastic snapping under the force of my hand. I could taste metal in my mouth, a coppery bitterness that felt like the final death of the man I had been. There was no fixing this. No coming back. She didn't just cheat on me, she tried to erase me, turn me into a footnote in my own story. Not anymore. I opened my phone and dialed the number my friend had given me weeks ago, back when things first started to feel wrong. A lawyer. One who specialized in people like her. Law offices of Scott and Bishop. How can I help you? A cheerful voice answered. I cleared my throat, my voice low but steady. My name is Daniel Reeves, I said. I need to file for divorce, and I want to make sure she walks away with nothing. There was a pause on the other end, then the voice softened, almost like she knew exactly what kind of call this was. We can help you with that, Mr. Reeves. Would you like to come in tomorrow? I smiled for the first time in days, not out of happiness, out of something sharper. Tomorrow's perfect, I said. It's time. I hung up the phone and sat back in my chair, feeling the first crackle of something I hadn't felt in a long time, control. They thought they had beaten me, but they didn't realize the simple truth: you can break a man's heart, you can wreck his dreams, but you better kill him if you don't want him to rebuild stronger than before. And I was far from dead. I agreed to meet her, not because I wanted closure, not because I needed answers. I agreed because I wanted to see for myself, to stand in front of the ruins and feel nothing. We chose a neutral place at a quiet bar on the outskirts of town, the kind of place where nobody knew your face and nobody asked questions. When I pulled into the parking lot, her car was already there. Of course it was. She always hated to be the one who arrived second. Control. It was always about control with her. Even now. I took a moment in the truck, letting the engine hum under me like a living thing, steeling myself, making sure whatever part of me had once ached for her was truly, finally dead. When I walked in, she was sitting in a booth near the window, nursing a glass of wine she hadn't touched. She looked smaller somehow, not physically, but something inside her had withered, cracked open, and for once, she couldn't hide it behind makeup or a fake smile. Her eyes lit up when she saw me. A flicker of hope. A reaching. I didn't sit, not yet. I stood there, looking at her, letting the silence stretch until it was almost unbearable. Daniel, she said, her voice cracking just a little. Thank you for coming. I raised a hand, cutting her off. I'm not here for a reconciliation. She flinched, like I'd slapped her. Good, let the reality hit her as hard as her betrayal had hit me. She tried to smile, that fake apologetic smile she always used when she thought charm could undo damage. I just thought maybe we could talk, she said. Figure things out, maybe fix. The word came out flat, hollow. I pulled the thick envelope from my jacket and dropped it onto the table between us. Divorce papers, filed, processed, unforgiving. Her hands shook as she touched them, flipping through the pages like she didn't believe they were real. You already figured things out, I said quietly. You and him. Tears welled up in her eyes, but I didn't move. Didn't soften. Didn't offer comfort. You don't understand, she whispered. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. I made mistakes, but I still love you. I was scared, lost. Lost people don't forge signatures and drain joint accounts, I said. The words hit their mark, her face crumpled, but I didn't feel satisfaction, only a hollow kind of peace. You used me, I said. You built a life with me as a safety net while you chased something else behind my back, and you didn't even have the decency to be honest about it. She opened her mouth to argue, to spin the story her way, but I wasn't interested. I leaned down, meeting her tearful gaze head on. I'm not angry anymore, I said. That part of me died the night I followed you to him. She sobbed then, loud and ugly, the kind of sound that used to break my heart into pieces. Now it barely moved me. You think if you cry enough, I'll forget? I asked, my voice so low she had to lean in to hear it. You think I'll pretend none of it happened? Her hand reached across the table, desperate, pleading that I stepped back. No, I said. Not this time. I turned and walked out without another word, leaving her sitting there in a pool of her own regret. The cold night air hit my face like a slap, but it felt good that I felt clean. For the first time in months, maybe years, I felt free, not whole, not healed, but free, and that was enough for now. The final box slid into the bed of my truck with a heavy thud. That it was strange how little there was left to carry out. That a few clothes, some books, that a framed photo of my father's old fishing boat that she never bothered to take down, probably because she didn't even notice it was there. Everything else, the memories, the dreams, the life we were supposed to build together, wasn't something you could pack. That it stayed behind, like old wallpaper peeling off forgotten walls. That I tightened the straps across the boxes, took one last look at the house, and climbed into the driver's seat. That I didn't hesitate. Didn't sit there thinking about what I was leaving behind. That I started the engine and pulled away, watching the house shrink in my rearview mirror until it was just another outline against a gray afternoon sky. A grave I didn't have to visit again. The motel wasn't much. A cheap little place with a sagging roof and faded blue doors, but for tonight, it was enough. It was my place now. I tossed the keys onto the bedside table and collapsed into the worn armchair by the window, staring out at the highway slicing through the landscape like an old scar. The world kept moving, unconcerned, indifferent, and maybe that was the lesson I was supposed to learn all along. I thought about her for a moment. About how easy it was for her to cheat, destroy something without even pausing long enough to look at the wreckage she caused. I thought about the man she left with, the one who probably thought he'd won something. Let him have her, let them have each other, wrapped up in their lies, pretending they built something out of the ashes they made. I wasn't carrying that weight anymore. I leaned my head back against the chair, feeling the exhaustion clawing at me deeper than anything sleep could fix, but beneath the tiredness, there was something else. A flicker. A spark, the part of me that wasn't dead after all. The part that had survived. I didn't know what came next. Didn't have a 5-year plan or a grand vision for the future. All I knew was this: tomorrow, I would wake up and I would still be standing, scarred, changed, but standing. Maybe I would buy a small place out by the lake, maybe I'd finally fix up that old motorcycle I kept meaning to work on, maybe I'd just drive for a while, windows down, music loud, letting the wind peel away everything that no longer belonged to me. What mattered was simple: that I was free. Not because she let me go, not because she apologized, but because I decided to let go of her. There's a kind of power in that. A quiet, final kind of power, the kind that doesn't need witnesses, the kind that doesn't beg for justice or vengeance. I closed my eyes, the hum of passing trucks filling the room like a lullaby, and for the first time in a long, long time, I let myself smile, not because the pain was gone, but because I knew it would never define me again.